Welcome back to Untested Builds, where we figure out how to play as your favorite fictional characters in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Subscribe and tap the bell to be notified whenever we post a new video. Comment below to suggest characters you want to see featured on the channel. And join the Patreon to vote in the current anime poll between Mami Tamae from Madoka Magica, Kakashi Hatake from Naruto, or Scar from Full Metal Alchemist. Patrons also gain early access to build videos and can download from the character sheet archive and can commission builds directly from me. So if any of those things interest you, links are in the description. Today we're keeping the Halloween themed build train rolling by jumping back into the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, where spooky season never stops. That's because every day negative human emotions coalesce into physical manifestations called curses that range from little animalistic creatures that pump out bad vibes to full-blown self-aware monstrosities that hunt humans for sport. Certain humans, called Jujutsu sorcerers, channel cursed energy using their own negative emotions in order to combat this existential threat. NOBARA KUGISAKI is one such sorcerer, using her abilities to escape the monotony of countryside life. For our goals for this build, we never had any formal training until now, so we've just made do with what was on hand, literally hammering nails into our enemies, and with practice and ample cursed energy, hammering nails at range as well. Second, there's a third tool in her arsenal, a straw doll that she can use to damage foes from a distance using a technique she calls resonance. And third, even when we don't have access to our tools and tricks, we're still a formidable hand-to-hand combatant. For our stats, we're starting with 18 dexterity. Whether it's a ranged attack or unarmed, this is our attack modifier. 14 constitution, we aren't indestructible, but we take a lot of punishment without going down. 14 wisdom, we may not have the luck of Yuji or the experience of Megumi, but we've got the most common sense on the team. We've got 12 strength. Even though we mostly use ranged attacks, this is still where a decent chunk of our damage will come from. And we're leaving intelligence and charisma flat. We're not dumb, just a bit on the green side. And we've got a big personality, but we're not so great at using it. For our skills, we're legendary in religion and a master in occultism. These are mostly prerequisites, as Nobara is still an inexperienced sorcerer. We're also a master in athletics. We don't have any trouble with grappling when it's necessary. Expert acrobatics and medicine. Since we have the dexterity and wisdom, we might as well use them. And we're trained in society, survival, and thievery. Nobara is a human. We're taking the versatile heritage for trick magic item to activate any occult or religious magic items we happen to come across. And we're taking the student of magic background for obvious reasons. We get training in occultism as well as academia lore and the recognized spell feat to identify an occult or religion spell we're aware of as a reaction, correctly identifying it on a success and gaining a +1 circumstance bonus to our AC or save against that spell if we critically succeed. For our ancestry feat, unconventional weaponry gives us access to an uncommon weapon with an ancestry trait, and we treat that as a simple weapon to determine our proficiency. We're reflavoring our hammer and nails as a thunder sling. We get the propulsive trait to add our strength modifier to our attacks like a normal sling, but we trade the bludgeoning damage for piercing damage, and we get the agile trait just in case we actually make a second strike in a round. There is only one class with the dedication to master woodworking tools as a weapon. Fighters gain the attack of opportunity reaction to make a melee strike against an enemy in their reach that uses a manipulate move or ranged attack action. Luckily, the thunder sling is only a one-handed weapon, so we can always make that strike with an unarmed attack. For our class feat, point blank shot ensures we can get up close and personal. On our first turn in combat, we can enter a stance to give our sling a +2 circumstance bonus to damage rolls when attacking within 50 feet. We'll pick up Battle Medicine to spend an action to perform a medicine check to restore an amount of HP similar to treat wounds to treat a target in reach, then they become immune to further battle medicine attempts for 1 day. For our class feat, we're taking a dedication to the cleric lifestyle for divine cantrips, like detect magic to sense the presence of magic items or ongoing spells within a 30-foot emanation, and disrupt undead to force a fortitude save on an undead creature, dealing 1d6 plus our wisdom modifier of positive damage and inflicting the enfeebled 1 condition on a critical fail. Level 3 fighters prove they're truly insane with bravery to increase our will saves to expert proficiency, and whenever we succeed on a will save against a fear effect, we gain the critical success results instead. And whenever we would gain the frightened condition, we reduce the value of the condition by 1. For our general feat, the fleet feat gives us an extra 5 feet of movement speed, so we can always be in the right place to take advantage of that attack of opportunity. I never mentioned our deity when we took the cleric dedication earlier. That's because it literally didn't matter until just now. We're a cleric of Vildeus since we've already used him for another nail user, but really we just want access to the pain domain for Savor the Sting, to spend an action and a focus point to force a will save on a creature to deal 2d4 mental damage and 2d4 persistent mental damage if they fail. And while they're taking persistent damage, we gain a +1 status bonus to attack rolls and skill checks against that creature, as if fighters needed any extra attack bonuses. For our skill feat, Creighton's Cognitive Crossover allows us to choose 2 skills, and whenever we gain no information from a recall knowledge check in one of those skills, we can attempt a recall knowledge check in the other skill as a reaction. We're choosing our religion and occultism since those are the two best skills that we have, and we'll cover pretty much everything a Jujutsu sorcerer might come up against. Level 5 fighters gain fighter weapon mastery for master proficiency with simple and martial weapons in a weapon group of their choice. We're going with slings for obvious reasons. We also get the critical specialization effects of those weapons, meaning we're forcing a fortitude save against our class DC, stunning them for one action if they fail. Which Warden is probably going to end up on every Jujutsu Kaisen character we build because gaining a +1 circumstance bonus to saving throws and critical success results on regular successes against curses and spells cast by hags is pretty good when our literal job is destroying curses and fighting dangerous curse users. We're not done bringing the magical pain just yet. Basic cleric spellcasting gives us a 1st and 2nd level spell slot. Magic Stone gets a bad rep, especially compared to magic weapon, but we're actually using a sling for probably the only time ever, unless we build like Usopp from One Piece or something. We can spend up to 3 actions to charge up to 3 sling bullets, making them +1 striking disrupting sling bullets for 1 minute. And we have Blood Vendetta for a basic version of Resonance to deal 2d6 persistent bleeding damage based on a will save to a creature as a reaction if they deal piercing, slashing, or persistent bleeding damage to us. For our skill feat, we're still in training, but we've more than proved ourselves capable of working in the field. The experienced professional feat means we no longer critically fail when earning an income using our Academia lore skill. Level 7 fighters gain Battlefield Surveyor for master perception proficiency and a +2 circumstance bonus to perception checks to initiative, and weapon specialization for an additional 3 flat damage with our sling and an additional 2 damage with our unarmed strikes. We'll take the toughness feat to increase our max HP by an amount equal to our level and to reduce the DC of our recover from dying checks to 9 plus our dying condition value. Level 8 basic sorcerer spellcasters gain a 3rd level spell slot. Positive attunement heals a living creature 1d8 hit points at the end of each of our turns, but that's not what we're here for. If we target an undead creature or a creature with negative healing, they instead take 1d8 positive damage at the end of each of our turns based on a will save. We'll pick up the quick recognition feat to use our recognized spell reaction as a free action once per round whenever we attempt to identify an occult spell. For our class feat, Incredible Aim lets us spend 2 actions to make a ranged weapon attack and a +2 circumstance bonus to the attack roll, and we ignore the target's concealed condition. Level 9 fighters gain Juggernaut for master fortitude saves and critical success results on regular successes, and combat flexibility to gain an extra fighter feat of 8th level or lower that we can switch out during our daily preparations. I like mobile shot stance so we can make attacks of opportunity with ranged attacks, and our ranged attacks don't trigger reactions, and resounding bravery to gain temporary hit points whenever we critically succeed on a will save. For our ancestry feat, we're picking up multi-talented for our ranger dedication so we can get even better with ranged weapons eventually. For now, we get Hunt Prey to designate a target we can see here, or we have Track to gain a +2 circumstance bonus against perception checks to seek and survival checks to track until our next daily preparations or until we use Hunt Prey on another target. We'll pick up a basic Hunter's Trick for the gravity weapon focus spell to add a status bonus to damage equal to the number of damage dice we deal on our first weapon strike each round for 1 minute. We'll pick up Dubious Knowledge since we're mostly self-taught in Jujutsu. Whenever we would fail a recall knowledge check and gain no information, we gain a bit of knowledge instead as if we had succeeded, but we also gain some information that is false. Level 11 fighters gain Fighter Expertise for Expert Fighter class DC and Armor Expertise for Expert Proficiency in all armor types. We usually just wear our school uniform, so I'd call that unarmored. For our general feat, Incredible Scout increases the usual bonus to initiative rolls our party receives from the Scout exploration activity to +2 instead of +1 since we're the most perceptive of the bunch. We'll pick up Expert Cleric Spellcasting for a 4th level spell slot. Blood Spray Curse is going to be our hairpin. We force a fortitude save against a creature, and unless they critically succeed for the next minute, each turn they take at least 10 piercing damage or slashing damage from a single strike, they take an additional 2d6 damage of the same type. If they fail their initial save, they also take 2d6 persistent bleed damage since, you know, a literal nail just exploded inside of them. Since we're getting more spells, let's make sure we keep our enemies guessing. Bizarre Magic increases the DC to identify spells we cast and magic we use by 5. Level 13 fighters gain Weapon Legend to increase our proficiency in all simple and martial weapons to master, all advanced weapons to expert, and we increase our proficiency in a weapon group of our choice to legendary. We're actually going to choose the hammer so we can switch to a light hammer if we ever run out of sling bullets, lol, as if any GM actually makes their players track ammo. But that doesn't mean we're worse with our thunder sling. The unconventional expertise ancestry feat increases our proficiency in our own chosen weapon to match the highest weapon proficiency we've obtained, meaning we're now legendary in all hammers as well as the thunder sling. Level 14 Expert Cleric spellcasters gain a 5th level spell slot. Blink Charge is our Black Flash. We teleport to an enemy within 60 feet and perform a strike that deals an additional 2d8 of force damage on a hit, double on a crit, and we can reposition the target 5 feet in any direction. Even on a fail, we still deal 1d8 force damage, but on a critical fail, we take 1d8 force damage instead. We're still just a first year after all, and not even Gojo can pull these off consistently. For our skill feat, we'll take Titan Wrestler to grapple, disarm, shove, and trip creatures up to 2 sizes larger than us, and we'll get more economical in combat with running reload to stride, step, or sneak and reload our weapon in a single action. Level 15 fighters gain evasion for master reflex saves and critical success results on regular successes, greater weapon specialization for an 8 additional damage with our hammer and sling, improved flexibility gives us an extra free fighter feat that we can take during our daily preparations, but this one can be up to level 14 and we can use our 8th level or lower flexibility feat as a prerequisite for this one. Determination is helpful when our enemies like to inflict conditions or negative spell effects. Stance Savant lets us get into our point blank shot or mobile shot stance at the start of combat, freeing up an action for hunt prey. And for our general feat, Feather Step lets us use the step action even while we're in difficult terrain and even if the square we're entering is difficult terrain. It's actually super useful since steps don't trigger reactions and there's a lot of difficult terrain and high level encounters, at least at my table. Level 16 Expert Cleric spellcasters gain a 6th level spell slot. True Seeing lets us see things as they truly are, attempting counteract checks against any illusion effects automatically. I think basically every Jujutsu sorcerer has this by default, well, except Maki, but we did kind of find a cursed polymorph as a mannequin in our first encounter, so we must have cast True Seeing at some point, right? We'll pick up Assured Identification to gain normal fails instead of critical fails when we are using Arcana, Nature, Occultism, or Religion to identify magic, and we can also never misidentify a cursed item just because we don't crit succeed the check. We'll take our resonance to another level with Advanced Domain for Retributive Pain. This is kind of like our Blood Vendetta, only we can apply it to a lot more situations, and since it's a focus spell, we can cast it more often. We spend a focus point as a reaction to taking damage to force a Fortitude save on the source of the damage, dealing mental damage equal to half the amount of damage we took. Level 17 fighters gain Armor Mastery for Master Proficiency in all armor types, and for our Ancestry feat, Stubborn Persistence lets us perform a DC 17 flat check to ignore gaining any instance of the fatigue condition. This doesn't get rid of any ongoing source of fatigue, so you might have to pass subsequent checks. We're still only human after all. We'll pick up some more damage with Deadly Aim to make a strike against our hunted prey at a -2 penalty, but in exchange we gain +8 circumstance bonus to damage, stacking with our gravity weapon and weapon specialization to essentially become a ranged giant instinct barbarian that can cast spells. For our skill feat, Exhort the Faithful lets us coerce or make requests from others in our line of work using our religion skill in place of intimidation or diplomacy, and we also gain a +2 circumstance bonus to the check, and the target's disposition towards us doesn't worsen if we critically fail. Level 19 fighters gain Versatile Legend, increasing our fighter class DC to Master, our proficiency in simple and martial weapons as well as unarmed strikes to Legendary, and our proficiency in advanced weapons to Master. We'll take Canny Acumen for Master Will Save since that's our last week save, and a lot of the curses in the game are will saves. For our final skill feat, Wall Jump lets us get our anime on, allowing us to use our momentum after a longer high jump to perform an additional jump so long as we landed on or adjacent to a wall. And for our capstone feat, Boundless Reprisals gives us an extra reaction each turn that we can use for anything, so we don't have to sacrifice our attack of opportunity to cast Retributive Pain or a Blood Vendetta. But we can talk about that more in the pros and cons section. For starters, we might only have a d6 damage die, but that doesn't mean we don't pump out the big damage. Our spells up our DPS over time with persistent damage, reflected damage as a reaction, and bonus damage when we hit with piercing attacks. Second, most of our spells are still decently effective even when the target makes a regular success. And third, we're a fighter. We've got the best attack modifier in the game, and we're always going to be ahead on damage even without a great pick when we're hitting and critting more often. And for our cons, we might attack hard, but we don't attack very often. Taking a sling means we're always taking at least one action off on each of our turns for a reload action. Not every combat warrants using a ranged weapon, especially when you have a caster in the backline anyway, which is why we picked up hammer proficiency alongside our thunder sling at level 13. Not sure why we're using a hammer and nails when other sorcerers just use straight up rocket launchers and mech suits. Gotta admit, it does look cool though. Second, we might only be fishing for success on our spells, but seeing our enemy fail or crit fail is obviously much better. And that's not going to happen often when we're only in an expert casting proficiency, even with our +5 wisdom modifier. Thanks for tuning in to another build. Subscribe if you still haven't, and join the Patreon to support the channel like these lovely folks, and to vote between Mami Tamaway, Kakashi, or Scar, and to download all of our character sheets. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and play more Pathfinder.